George outperformed Bottas
over a season. Over a season, if you put Bottas and George in, Bottas wins.
2014 Mercedes, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton versus 2024 Mercedes. 10 years later, still Lewis Hamilton.
Is he the only one that's in this?
He's the only one that's.
So it's Lewis either way.
It's Lewis.
Longevity for you guys. This is why he is the GOAT.
So it's basically Lewis is still there, so it's just Rosberg versus Russell.
It is.
Lewis is still there, so it doesn't matter.
Rosberg's better than Russell.
No, actually, no. We could do Lewis versus Lewis, because are we saying is 2014 Lewis better or is 2024 Lewis better? And I've got to give it to 2024 Lewis. He's a
2024 Lewis is better than 2014 Lewis. Like there's no
no
debate in this.
Yeah.
So
we can do Lewis versus Lewis. I think 2014.
Yeah, but either way, it's Lewis. At the end of the day, you write on paper who's better, Lewis or Lewis. It's Lewis. It's the same bloody name.
Yes, but would you, if you had to take one driver?
Yeah, but we've not done that. We've not done. This is why I said we haven't done. Is it a 2014 Fernando? Is it a past Fernando? What Fernando is it? If we're gonna do consistency, is it that Lewis? We should have done that with it. That's the year. That's the driver all the way through.
But did we do that though?
Not really. We
did kinda.
No, because we took kind of caliber of driver into account with Fernando, and the way that he was in the past.
We did say oh it was. We did kind of say, oh yeah, it was based off that.
We're getting into something that's not really needed right now, because either way, it's Lewis.
All right, let's just say, okay. I mean, yeah, but okay? Right, here's the way that you go about this.
Has Lewis developed?
Yeah, yes. you go. Okay, well, is Lewis 2024 Lewis better off with George Russell, or is the 2014 Lewis better off with Nico Rosberg? That's the question.
Well, I can tell you now, Lewis says George Russell, because that relationship between Rosberg and Hamilton went.
Yes. And I'm saying, controversially, the lineup now is better than it was. But by very thin margins. Only because I think the Lewis now works better with Russell than... I'd take Lewis and Bottas over Lewis and Nico.
I'd take Lewis and Bottas over Lewis and Nico and Lewis and George.
That's fair enough. That's a different discussion. But the only reason why I bring that up is because I want to put into comparison. I'm not picking Rosberg because he's quick. We're talking about driver pairings here.
Rosberg's better than Russell.
Rosberg is better. Nico Rosberg, I think, is probably one of the most underrated F1 drivers in history, only because he went up against the greatest of all time.
He's another one I don't really like.
I know, I never really liked Rosberg either. But realistically, if anyone else was in that car... I mean, he beat Michael Schumacher, for God's sake. Even though he was old...
He's a good driver, Nico.
Nico's the only reason people don't rate him higher is because... He would have been a 3-time world champion if Lewis wasn't
for Lewis.
Yeah. If he wasn't against the greatest of all time, he would be a 3-time world champion. Simple as that. Probably more, because he probably wouldn't have retired.
Yeah. I think the way you look at it now as well, though, Mercedes have a more defined 1 and 2 than back then.
Yeah, I'd say it's more defined. I'd say the Bottas and Hamilton was more defined.
Oh, Bottas and Hamilton, it was more defined, yeah. And I think it's going to be even more defined, George and Lewis, at the end of this year.
Well, that's where we disagree.
Lewis is going to wipe the floor.
The only thing we disagree on is, I think the only reason I picked George and Lewis over Nico and Lewis is for one reason only. It's because that Mercedes isn't a championship winning car. And I mentioned this a few podcasts ago, or it might have been last week. But I think you give Lewis and George a championship winning car and they end up taking points off each other like Nico and Lewis did. But because we haven't seen that yet, I have to go with Lewis and George. But we saw it with Lewis and Nico. And we saw the way they fought. We saw the shithousery.
No.
We did.
We saw the shithousery.
We saw the shithousery.
But I'm just saying
we haven't seen that with Lewis and George,
and we're never going to see that because
I think we will.
Lewis will be miles ahead of George. George is not that good.
So this decision is by margins, but I have to go with Lewis and George only because Lewis and Nico just did not work.
I'm going
two number ones.
I'm going with Lewis and George because Lewis and Nico didn't work at all, and it's proven.
Yeah, even though they were both
However,
amazing.
I am not going to concede to the fact that we're only saying it because we've not seen a good Mercedes and George battles Lewis. Because George will never be on a level of Lewis.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton is a ticking time bomb.
I'll say this now.
It's another Lewis and Nico.
I'm saying this now. If that Mercedes car stayed at the trajectory it was, with the pace that it had when Lewis and Bottas, George would be in contention to leaving Mercedes at the end of 2024.
No, I'm telling you this right now. Right, clip this as well. Remember this. Clip this right now. If this is on a clip, clip it. If that's on a clip, clip it. No, clip this. Could be a short, actually. In fact, I'm going to put a statement out right now. Clip this, right? If that Mercedes car is anywhere near the front this season, if that Mercedes car is anywhere near the front this season, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell will crash and they will take points off each other because they will get in each other's way and they'll be hyper competitive with one another. And here's something else for you. Even if they don't, I reckon at least once this season we will see an instance where Lewis Hamilton and George Russell come together. I think it will happen.
I think that's going to happen, but I think that's George going to be getting in the way when Lewis is lapping him.
That's so funny. Well, that's just it. I don't know.
Honestly, I think George is the most overrated driver on the grid.
All right. Okay, calm down.
No, he is.
No.
Yes, he is.
No.
And honestly, if you gave Lewis a car that he has had 2020, 2019, 2021, whatever, you gave him that car, George would be nowhere near, and we'll actually see how good George is.
Yeah, it's
in
not
a
like
fast car.
George beat Bottas in his first race. Well, he didn't technically.
No, he didn't technically.
Outperformed him. George outperformed Bottas
Over a season, if you put Bottas and George in, Bottas wins.
What? No.
Bottas wins.
Stop it.
Bottas wins over a season.
No.
Yes, he does.
Stop it.
Yes.
Stop it.
Stop what? Facts.
Oh. Anyway. Yeah, Lewis and George I'd say is better. Only because Nico and Lewis was shit out.
Yeah, Lewis and George is better.
Yeah. Shit house really Nico and Lewis
It was too toxic.
Like everyone would say, oh well, it didn't get toxic until 2015. It got toxic.
But it was getting toxic in 2014.
Monaco,
yeah.
2014 was the first.
We were 5-6 races in.
Nico on purpose goes off in the run-off zone, so Lewis couldn't beat him in qualifying in Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
Shithousery. That is pure shithousery.
Well, it didn't get toxic, wasn't it? Malaysia, like 2-3 races in, when they were on about engine modes in the podium. What, that 2014?
I can't remember.
I think it was.
They battled in Bahrain.
They did.
That was a battle, but that was a good. That was a good race.
That was phenomenal from Lewis.
They were respectful of each other, which is fair enough. But then after that was like the.
Yeah, but then you only think about it. Obviously, they came together in Austria that time, which was Nico's fault.
Yeah. That was 2015.
Yeah.
But we're talking about 14.
I know, but we're thinking about it over the period that they were together. They came together in Austria.
They did, yeah.
Belgium. Spain.
Yep.
Can you remember any more?
Can't remember any more, but there are definitely instances where 2016 Abu Dhabi, Lewis trying to hold up Nico for the championship.
Yeah, but they didn't come together.
No, I'm talking about just shithousery that they did.
There was shithousery, yes.
2016 Abu Dhabi with Lewis holding up Nico. Nico going on the run-off in Monaco 2014 to stop Lewis getting pole. It's just shit like that.
There was shithousery in there.
Lewis throwing the cap at Nico in Austin and Nico throwing it back at him.
Yeah.
Bro, it's so funny.
We had shithousery.
There was pure shithousery between
We
them.
loved it.
It was good to watch, but as a driver pairing, they just didn't get on.
They did not get on.
Did not at all.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was hyper rivalry, that was. Arguably, I think probably Max and Lewis is tough as a rivalry. Probably closer in terms of performance, because I think Nico's maybe a tad bit more behind. But in terms of, like, fire, Nico and Lewis, there's nothing comparing to it. If you weren't an F1 fan back then and you've only just watched now, go back and watch Nico and Lewis. It was 10 hooks every single race.
Like, if Drive to Survive was a thing, it would
it would be... Bro!
Honestly.
Drive to Survive in 2014.
It would have popped up. Like, if you loved your drama, oh my God.
It was the only good thing about that turbo hybrid Mercedes era, wasn't it?
You just...
The drama.
You're just waiting for the drama.
Because the races were shit. So boring.
Yeah.
But the drama between Nico and Lewis was good.
Drama was crazy.